one chance out between two worlds. Fire. Walk with me.
In the prequel film to Twin Peaks, we are introduced to subjects that exist in and move between two worlds. One of the most notable examples is the Owl Cave ring. With the foreboding line spoken by Dale Cooper in the waiting room,
"Don't take the ring, Laura."
The ring cemented itself as one of the most iconic elements of Twin Peaks lore, while leaving viewers to presume that the ring is inherently evil. And although some background is laid out in the books by Mark Frost, like many things in Twin Peaks, its function or purpose is ambiguous and up for debate. This episode features a comprehensive timeline of the ring's appearances while examining its role in the Fire Walk With Me prequel. We will also introduce the theme of complete circles in Twin Peaks and take a closer look at the mysteries surrounding the Owl Cave ring. What we know for sure is that the ring itself is gold with a jade inset featuring the markings of the petroglyph from Owl Cave, an icon in its own right. We also know its bearers experience symptoms of numbness in their arm.
What do you mean?
Completely dead.
Which could have something to do with the relationship between the waiting room and electricity. It also appears that the ring can be handed from the waiting room into the real world, as is attempted by the arm to Laura in Fire Walk With Me, and actualized by Mike to Agent Cooper in The Return. However, the most relevant discernible characteristic of the Owl Cave ring seems to be that if the wearer dies with the ring on their finger, then their soul or spirit is transported to the waiting room, or red room, along with it. This phenomenon is slightly more obvious, albeit less important, when the ring appears in The Return, but it's a fundamental key to understanding the plot of Fire Walk With Me and what happened to Laura Palmer in her final days on Earth. The history of the ring in the Twin Peaks pantheon is long and tangled. Chronologically, the Owl Cave ring first appears in the Secret History of Twin Peaks novel, mentioned in letters written by Meriwether Lewis in 1805. Lewis, of Lewis and Clark fame, is gifted the ring by Chief Twisted Hair of the Nez Perce Indians during his expeditions of the Pacific Northwest in the early 19th century. In his writings, Lewis describes the ring as being expertly fashioned through advanced craftsmanship from precious metal or bronze alloy. Through broken translation with the Nez Perce, it is inferred to be an object tied to the spirit world, with the adorning symbol possibly representing an owl when inverted. Twisted Hair claimed it was one of 3 artifacts given to the tribe by mysterious white people who lived by the Great Falls of Water. He kept the ring in a leather pouch and warned Lewis that it should never be worn. Lewis dies a few years later in 1809, and it's speculated that a Major James Neely was involved with his death and took possession of the ring before disappearing from history. A ring with a green stone surfaces in 1945, being worn by the incredibly convoluted character of Jack Parsons, as noted in a field report submitted by Lieutenant L. Ron Hubbard. This report triggers a top-secret military investigation by Major Douglas Milford, who witnesses Parsons wearing a jade green ring on his right ring finger in 1949 and again in 1952. 20 years later, in 1973, the same Douglas Milford recounts in his private journal that then-President Richard Nixon was also wearing a green ring on the ring finger of his right hand.
Teresa Banks had a ring. Any idea what happened to it?
We got a phone here. It's got a little ring.
In Fire Walk With Me, a missing ring is noticed during the autopsy of Teresa Banks, and she is later seen wearing it in a photograph taken before her death in 1988.
She's got the ring on.
During the investigation into her murder, it is found by Special Agent Chet Desmond moments before his disappearance. A year later, Philip Jeffries reemerges at the FBI offices in Philadelphia in 1989 and mentions a ring while recounting a meeting above a convenience store during a semi-coherent rant. In a vision of this meeting, the arm is seen saying, "With this ring, I thee wed." Shortly thereafter, Laura Palmer encounters the ring multiple times during the last week of her life. She sees Mike wearing the ring during the road rage altercation with her father, Leland. Also, the arm attempts to hand the ring to her in a dream. Laura is then seen holding the ring briefly, but it is gone when she awakens. Later, she also recalls Teresa Banks wearing the ring in a memory. And finally, at the climax of the prequel, Mike throws the ring in the train car and Laura places it on her finger before she is killed. Months later, in the additional scenes of Fire Walk With Me, titled The Missing Pieces, Dale Cooper is trapped in the waiting room after his attempt to rescue Annie Blackburn from the Black Lodge. In this sequence, the arm introduces Cooper to the ring before offering it to Laura in her dream. Another scene shows the ring missing from the table.
Where is the ring?
Someone knows.
I see snow.
We then see Annie wearing the ring in the hospital bed before a nurse removes it from Annie's finger and places it on her own. The final dossier, the bookend to the secret history of Twin Peaks, conflictingly mentions that also in 1989, Douglas Milford had a jade green ring amongst his belongings after his death. In addition to being one of the main characters in the secret history with his own recollections of a jade ring, Twin Peaks viewers will also remember Douglas Milford from the original television series and his marriage to Lana Budding. It's interesting to note that, while only briefly on screen, Dougie Milford is seen wearing a gold ring with a green stone inset. The ring was passed on to the widow Milford, who carried it with her into the 1990s. Lana also reportedly dated a notorious Fifth Avenue resident who possibly wore the ring and may or may not be the 45th President of the United States.
That's weird.
In The Return, Dougie Jones is seen wearing the ring in Las Vegas 25 years later. As Dougie and the ring are sucked back into the waiting room, we see Mike place it on the table. Ray Monroe then has possession of the ring and plans to put it on the finger of Mr. C after killing him. Mr. C forces Ray to put the ring on his own finger and kills him instead, sending Ray's spirit and the ring again back to the Red Room. Finally, Dale Cooper is handed the ring by Mike and later places it on the dead Mr. C, sending both to the waiting room, and this is where it's last seen in the Twin Peaks story.
This ring.
Perhaps the most iconic scene involving the Owl Cave ring is Laura Palmer's death in the train car in the finale of Fire Walk With Me. After years of mental and sexual abuse at the hands of her father, Leland, Laura is violently murdered. Moments before Leland, possessed by Bob, delivers the death blows, the ring is tossed into the train car by Mike. Laura slips the ring on her finger before she is killed, and her spirit appears in the waiting room after her death. This final sequence and the role of the ring in the film, without much context or explanation from David Lynch as usual, is perplexing to say the least. One could hypothesize that the events surrounding Laura and the ring break down something like this. Cooper warns Laura not to take the ring, though it's not exactly clear why. It's possible that he doesn't understand exactly what the ring is, and his intuition is telling him that it's evil. Regardless, Cooper is out of his element at this point.
Where am I?
And doesn't understand Bob's motivation or trust the arm's intentions. Bob's motivation is, in fact, to possess Laura the way he possesses Leland, not to kill her. Mike and the arm claim that Bob owes them Garmin Bozia, pain and sorrow seen as creamed corn, which they will only be able to harvest if she is killed. The ring represents the arrangement that they have made.
Appetite, satisfaction, a golden circle.
They want Laura to take the ring because then Bob won't be able to possess her. Then when Bob kills her, they can feed on the pain and sorrow, as opposed to Bob possessing her and continuing his selfish quest. Earlier in the film, the arm tries to give Laura the ring in her dream, but she doesn't take it, possibly because of Cooper's warning. When Mike encounters Laura and Leland at the intersection, he is angrily reminding Bob of their arrangement and what he owes them. And as a last-ditch attempt in the finale, Mike throws the ring in the train car hoping that she puts it on. Laura does indeed put on the ring. Bob kills her because now he can't possess her. Laura's spirit goes to the waiting room, and Mike and the arm get their Garmin Bozia.
Do you like my ring?
Images of circles, rings, and thematic circles of completion are constants in Twin Peaks. In The Return, for example, there is a gold ring of Dougie Jones from his wife Janie E. found in the stomach of the deceased Major Briggs. There are many more cases throughout the series, including Mike and Bob's circles of candles and the circle of sycamore trees at Glastonbury Grove. Let's also not forget the endless barrage of donut imagery, amongst countless other references to circles.
My ring is gone.
Our hero Dale Cooper also has a ring that is taken by the Giant in the original series and is returned to him when Laura's killer is revealed, when the circle is complete. As for the Owl Cave ring, if it was indeed given to the Nez Perce Indians by mysterious white men by the Great Falls of Water, we could wonder if one of these white men is also our friend the Giant. Like the gift of fire from Prometheus, maybe the firemen gave this tool to mankind to ensure that the gifted and the damned make their way back to the waiting room. If this is indeed its true function, then the ring also completes thematic circles in the larger stories of Agent Cooper and Laura Palmer. In The Return, the ring sends Cooper's doppelganger back to the Black Lodge from whence he came. Also because of the ring, Laura's soul finds peace in Fire Walk With Me, and while now in the Red Room, she assists Cooper in solving her own murder in the original series, and plays a role in the finale of The Return. And like the living energy of fire, one could surmise that the ring is neither good nor evil.
Depends upon the intention behind the fire.
Perhaps the Owl Cave ring is simply a supernatural object of moral ambivalence, an object that exists on the blurred line between two worlds.